Hello everybody, it's Captain Trucker. Welcome back to the channel. So I want to examine this possibility that you can still live in the Philippines off about $1,000 a month, possibly less than if you do your budget correctly, and how you can live like a maverick. Not a king, but a maverick. We're going to examine that in this video and some of the mindsets that we can develop, that we can learn from the Filipinos in terms of adaptability, simplicity, and sort of ridding oneself of materialism, and how that can benefit you both personally and as a social experiment. Okay, very important elements going on here, folks. So we're going to get rid of the whole king concept on social media because I think it's overused. I think it's silly. It's fallacious. It doesn't make any sense. Nobody's going to live like a king in any foreign country, no matter how much money they have, because, well, they're not kings, right? So a maverick, on the other hand, is like an unorthodox person, somebody who's able to think independently and live independently. So I think that should be like the new appropriate phrase, is more maverick as opposed to like king. All right, so the Filipinos, through years of, well, centuries of colonization, being taken over by different territories, like Americans colonized the Philippines at some point, including the Spaniards and other influences and so forth. The Filipino culture dealt with a lot. They dealt with, and they developed a lot of resilience, okay? And they're also positioned in like the Pacific Ring of Fire, which means this country has withstood countless typhoons and floods and a lot of natural disasters that a lot of cultures haven't really dealt with. So through that, they have developed a sense of unity, a sense of, you know, independence, okay? And that's the kind of thing that money can't buy, all right? Now, I hate to sound cliche, but it is true. Like, money itself cannot buy happiness, right? Because in the West, we're always searching for this ideal of life, like, oh, we're supposed to be happy, we deserve to be happy, we should live a happy life. But I mean, really, like, happiness is like a temporary state of emotion, okay? Happiness is not your existence on earth. I mean, even in ancient scriptures, you know, people went through all sorts of trials and ups and downs. I think even Jonah was swallowed by a whale. I mean, nobody lived like this full-time happy life, if you will. But something the Filipinos have been able to do is find some of their happiness through contentment, you know, being satisfied with what they have. And I think part of that has been the way the culture has evolved through these different environments and different colonization over a long period of time. But where we come in, Americans, what we can learn from this is if we learn to start appreciating and adapting just some of those mindsets on some level, getting even a taste of it as a tourist, we can start to appreciate, you know, living a more simple, humble life, man. And that's why it's not really about the money. It's not like, oh, you should move to the Philippines to save money or because you can live like a king and all this and that. I mean, yeah, if you move here as an expat, yes, you can save money. Can you live here for $1,000 a month? Yes. Could you live here for less than that? Yes, possibly. I have. I wouldn't recommend that for all expats, though. I mean, I could still live in the province for like $500, $600, $700, $800, still spend a week at a beach resort, travel to different cities. You know, you got to be a bit frugal with the money. Your money, you can't stay in like super nice hotels every day, but it can be done, okay? But you would like live in the provinces. You're not going to have the same plush amenities and whatnot, but that's okay. You can still appreciate these man-made luxuries occasionally. It doesn't have to be like full-time. But I mean, for the general expat or retiree, I would probably recommend still like $2,000 a month, $3,000, especially if you've never been to these countries, because that way, you know, a lot of people, when they first come here, I mean, I know even for me, it was like, it took a long time to adjust, you know? It's a different frequency in the Far East as opposed to like live in a more urbanized, industrialized society. It is like a different energy, and I can only explain it if you've been here. But if we can start learning again to live on less material and a little bit more simple, I think it will bring us Americans more contentment too, and probably make your stay in the Philippines much better as well. I think we're really programmed to be always doing stuff, to be always stimulated, you know, in different ways, whether it's just dopamine or, you know, work, or even the food we eat. We eat a lot of like processed food in the US. It has a lot of chemicals and stuff in it, but I mean, even a lot of the foods here is a lot more natural. So yeah, man, we can still adapt. There's a special lesson to learn that. There's a certain humility that comes with not so much living in poverty, but experience and simplicity, okay? And that's really something that these cultures have figured out. It's taken them so far, I believe, not just in their own character, but spiritually, it does something to you. And so if Americans, if we can learn to adapt to those mindsets, yes, you can live here off a small budget or a big budget, but that's what you can take from it. You can learn those precious lessons, okay? And it doesn't matter what net worth you have, all right? Like I had a guy that just come on the channel recently and he goes, oh, I'm calling out BS on a lot of your talks about minimalism and stuff. He's like, you're just a poor person. And if you're living in the Philippines off less than $2,000 a month, you're just gonna live poor and that's all you can afford. But see, well, first of all, that's not true. But number two, this lesson, that's like I said, it doesn't apply to just rich or poor people. Like Neil Peart, the drummer of Rush, he's the perfect example of this. He used to spend about a month in Cameroon in Africa, where he'd go and ride his bicycle for like a month-long tour, even more. He'd spend maybe 2 or 3 months at times, I'm not sure, but he would spend it like in Africa, biking, you know, without any modern amenities. He had to pump his own water through a filter and stuff. But he did that because it brought him back to the basics of life, man. Like when you're living so basic that you appreciate just clean water in sunshine and, you know, maybe food, like those basic things. Once you break down all the other synthetic stuff we have around us, and you know, all the good restaurants and the good food and shopping malls and other rich people, it's like you can start to appreciate that simple stuff more. It's very true. And so he did that, and he was a wealthy man. He was a millionaire because it humbled him, and it made him a better writer, it made him a better poet, it made him a better philosopher, it made him a better drummer. That was the drummer of Rush, Neil Peart. So it's not so much a matter of like, oh, what you'll put yourself through, or oh, I can afford not to live that way, so I'll go live a upper end lifestyle in Makati or BGC. That's fine. But the point I'm trying to say is, like, if we as people can start learning some of these habits of conservation and simplicity and enjoying the simple things, I really believe it will make our stay in the Philippines better, but it will also make us better as Americans. It will make our whole culture better as consumers if we can start learning some of these mindsets. And I can't emphasize that enough, because a lot of the stuff that we have, I mean, you always hear about infrastructure. A lot of expats will talk or even complain about infrastructure, right? I mean, seriously, like, you're in your 60s or 70s, like, who cares about infrastructure, right? I mean, it's like a nice road, a newly paved road, or you know, access to this and that, and buildings that don't crumble in on you. I mean, who cares? Who cares if you live in a house that caves in on you? No, I'm just joking. That's a joke. No, but seriously, I mean, infrastructure's overrated, okay? You're not gonna be on your deathbed one day, you know, looking up going, oh man, I wish I lived in a country with better infrastructure. I wish I lived in a house that didn't have cracks in the concrete or have geckos. I wish I had better roads in the community. You're never gonna say that. You're gonna say, I wish I spent more time with my family. I wish I was a better member of the community. I wish I did this more. I wish I worked less. I wish I appreciated more things that I had before our health declines and everything else. Because I'm telling you, man, all the stuff we have, including our health, you know, we start to lose it slowly, day by day. And so at that point, you know, once the other highs of life wear off, where are you going to find happiness, man? Where are you going to be content? So there's so much wisdom to learn from these ancient cultures. I mean that sincerely. And the only way we're going to experience that is if we try it. If we try to live simply, if we try to live minimally. It takes effort because it's not easy. We're very cushioned. We're very conditioned as Americans. But if we can learn to strip away from that, and yes, also if you're a middle or middle upper class person, you will save money, absolutely. Because you'll realize there's so much stuff you have and need and do that you just don't need anymore, you know? I mean, once you have food and medicine, well, I know for me, I have to have air conditioning. That's one thing I've never been able to do away with. No matter where I live in the Philippines, it's so hot here, it really is. It's very, very, very hot. And you're never gonna escape the heat, okay? I still go for jogs midday just to acclimate myself to the temperature. I'll go run 2 or 3 miles during, like, you know, 2 p.m. I'll drink about a gallon and a half of water every single day, okay? But that's part of the fun, you know? It's like, you get to hang out at the house. And once you build a house here, you can still build a nice house, like 80 square meters, 100 square meters, for between maybe 30 and 40,000 US dollars, including the land, depending on how you do it. And you can give that to your girlfriend or your kids. And once you have that taken care of, there's really not much living expenses beyond what you want to eat. And, you know, food here is relatively inexpensive too, right? Like, I can eat massive amounts of squid, fresh chicken, and different fish, and also steak for very inexpensive, okay? So it's a great place to do some bodybuilding. If you need like a high protein diet, you could do it here, man. Absolutely. You know, a lot of the street food is good. You know, they cook it straight on the street. I haven't got sick here yet from any like bad water or bad food. I still buy distilled water. But yeah, no complaints as far as that. But yeah, you can absolutely save money living in the Philippines. I would just say don't move here just to save money. So when you go with that mentality, like for the retiree that's moving here explicitly to save money, who's never been to a country like this and he's coming from America, I would say you might be in for some trouble because you might be disappointed. But if you're going to learn to adapt these mindsets, it will make your retirement so much better. It will make your family life better and really your whole experience. So that's why I'm always talking about this subject of materialism and contentment, because it's a very underrated concept that's all we know it as a concept. But once you can actually apply this stuff to your life, you'll see the peace it brings you, okay? Because there's much more peace I find here in this country than I do like if I was living in, you know, a stressful life in the city, like I don't know, somewhere in the US. I find it much less stressful here for those reasons. But anywho, so yeah, this is how we can live like mavericks in the Philippines, folks. And you heard it from me first, Captain Trucker. We're changing that whole social media concept because I think it's outdated. I think it's based on some like weird, perverse colonial attitude where like not everybody's a king, okay? There's only certain kings. You can have all the money you want, you're still not a king. We're gonna call it mavericks, okay? Okay, my camera cut out. You heard it first here from Captain Trucker. I think it's a cheesy campaign. I think it's silly. So no matter who you are, vloggers using that campaign, live like a king, I think it's ridiculous. We gotta start re-examining the way we're thinking about this stuff. I still think Maverick is better and more appropriate. But anyway, that's just my thoughts. You can live and say whatever you want. I'm just kidding around with you. It's Captain Trucker. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna go eat some fish. All right, bye-bye.